Good evening to all. Last class లో లైట్ అండ్ ఇట్స్ ప్రాపర్టీస్ చూడటం జరిగింది. నౌ వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు సి సౌండ్ అండ్ ఇట్స్ ప్రాపర్టీస్. ఓకే, అండర్స్టాండ్ సౌండ్, how it works, and what are the properties of sound, and how many types of sound waves are there, like that. We are going to learn all those things now. Okay na? Okay. So sound is also a form of energy. Sound. So sound is a form of energy. How we produce a sound, or how we get sound? Sound is obtained from the vibrating bodies. అంటే కంపిస్తున్నా. సో కంపిస్తున్న వస్తువుల నుండి ధ్వని ఉత్పత్తి అవుతుంది. సౌండ్ ఈజ్ ప్రొడ్యూస్డ్ ఫ్రమ్ వైబ్రేటింగ్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్. ఇఫ్ there is no vibration, there is no production of sound. వైబ్రేషన్స్ లేకపోతే సౌండ్ ప్రొడ్యూస్ అవ్వదు. సో ఈ ప్రొడ్యూస్ అయిన సౌండ్ ప్రొపగేట్ అవ్వాలి అంటే హ్యావ్ టు ట్రావెల్. ఫర్ ది ప్రొపగేషన్ ఆఫ్ సౌండ్ మీడియా ఈజ్ రిక్వైర్డ్. సో ధ్వని ప్రసరించడానికి యానం కావాలి. మీడియా ఈజ్ రిక్వైర్డ్ ఫర్ propagation of sound. Why media is required? Because these particles must move to some place and they have to come back to the original state, mean position, and go to another direction, and have to come and look that it has to move to and fro, and it has to stop at a point. For that, the material media is required, and a vacuum is not required. So sound cannot be travel in vacuum. Sound travels only material media. So it must possess two types of properties. One is elastic property. Elasticity. Another one is inertia. Elasticity and inertia. What is elasticity? If we apply a force on any object, it changes its state or its shape. After releasing the force, if it regains its original state or position, then we say that object is possessing ఎలాస్టిక్ ప్రాపర్టీ. ఇప్పుడు ఒక ఎలాస్టిక్ని తీసుకున్నాం, దీని మీద ఒక హ్యాండ్ గట్టిగా హోల్డ్ చేసి సెకండ్ హ్యాండ్ని అప్లైడ్ ఫోర్స్ ఆన్ ఇట్ లైక్ దిస్ మోడ్. దెన్ డ్యూ టు ఫోర్స్ అప్లైడ్ ఆన్ దట్ it elongates like up to this point. If you release the force, suddenly it regains again its shape and particles gets into its position. So this is called elastic property. And rubber is having elastic property, and every substance has elastic property, some extent or more, like that matter. Now another was inertia. What is inertia? So it is the property of any object unable to change its position. Unable to change its position without using any external force. ఏ బాహ్యబలం లేకుండా వస్తువు తన స్థితిని మార్చుకోలేని ధర్మాన్ని ఎనర్జీ అంటాం. అంటే కాన్స్టెంట్గా స్టాటిక్గా ఉంది, డైనమిక్గా ఉంది. స్టాటిక్గా అంటే స్థిరంగా ఉంది, డైనమిక్గా అంటే మూవ్ అవుతుంది. సో మూవ్ అవుతున్న ఆబ్జెక్ట్ స్టాప్ అవ్వాలి, స్థితిని మార్చుకోవాలి, మోషన్ నుంచి రెస్ట్కి రావాలి. రెస్ట్లో ఉన్న ఆబ్జెక్ట్ రెస్ట్ నుంచి మోషన్కి వెళ్ళాలి. ఇలా ఉండాలంటే దానికి తప్పనిసరిగా ఉండాలంటే ఎనర్షియా ఉండాలన్నమాట. సో దట్ ప్రాపర్టీ విచ్ అనేబుల్ టు చేంజ్ ఇట్స్ ఒరిజినల్ స్టేట్ ఈజ్ కాల్డ్ ఎనర్షియా అంటామట. కాబట్టి ఎనర్షియా అండ్ ఎలాస్టిసిటీ ఉన్నట్టయితే దట్ మీడియా కెన్ ప్రాపగేట్ సౌండ్. ఓకే, అండర్స్టాండ్. సో సౌండ్ travels in various medias. Substances are three types, already we have seen: solids, liquids and gases. Three types of substances are there: solids, liquids and gases. Okay, solids having more elastic nature and inertia. Liquids, when compared to solids, less elastic and inertia. Gases are very less inertia and elasticity. So that's why sound propagates in solid media more fastly than in liquids and gases. The speed of sound waves is more in solids than in liquids and gases. So వాయువుతో పోల్చుకున్నట్టయితే ఘన పదార్థాలలో ధ్వని వేగం ఎక్కువగా ఉంటుంది. అన్ని పదార్థాల కంటే ఘన పదార్థాల ధ్వని వేగం ఎక్కువ, అన్నిటికంటే వాయువులో తక్కువ. మనం చూస్తే వెలాసిటీ ఆఫ్ సౌండ్ ఇన్ ఎయిర్, గాలిలో ధ్వని వేగము, వెలాసిటీ ఆఫ్ సౌండ్ ఇన్ ఎయిర్ 330 meters per second. Okay, so velocity of sound in water 1435 meters per second. In the same velocity of sound in glass 5500 meters per second. This is gas state, this is liquid, this is solid. So sound propagates or travels with the highest speed in solids than liquids and gases. It is due to nature of elastic nature and inertia. Understand? So velocity of sound in air is 330 meters per second. Velocity of sound in water is 1435 meters per second. And velocity of sound in glass, gauze, is 550 meters per second. Next. So to propagate sound propagates in the form of waves. This is wave motion. So travels in wave motion. Now, how many types of waves are there? There are two types of waves: transversal, longitudinal. Transversal waves and longitudinal waves. According to the vibration of the particles to the direction of the propagation, these are divided. According to the vibration of the particles to the motion of the wave. Suppose wave is moving in this direction and a forward direction. Wave is moving in the forward direction. If the particles are moving to and fro motion like this, like this, this type of motion is called transversal motion, and the particles vibrates perpendicular to the motion of the wave. Motion of the wave. Okay. Vibration of the particles perpendicular to the motion of the wave. Here we get crest and trough. This is crest. This highest point is called crest. Lowest point is called trough. So crest, trough. C is formed. This type of wave is called transversal wave. And distance between the two sets crests or troughs is wavelength. Wavelength. What is wavelength? The distance between the two particles in the same position of the two conjugative particles. The distance between the two conjugative particles which are in the same position. And a particle is one. Here C. Malli again is one C. So these are the sets of particles. The distance between these two particles which are having the same position. So E particle this E. This distance and this distance becomes the wavelength. Wavelength. So for transversal waves. Suppose this is the highest point. This is the highest. The distance from this to this point is called wavelength, denoted by letter lambda, Greek letter. Lambda. Lambda. Greek letter. Understand? So, suppose if you take, this is crest, this is trough. Crest, trough. Same. The distance between two consecutive troughs or crests is the wavelength, denoted by lambda, measured in meters. Understand? Now, frequency. What is the frequency? Frequency తెలుగులో పౌనఃపున్యం అంటారు. And how many number of times? So, how many number of times it vibrates in a second is called its frequency. And the number of vibrations per second is called frequency. The number of vibrations per second. The number of vibrations per second is called its frequency. So frequency is generally denoted by letter N or F. N gaani F gaani. And suppose if a particle vibrating 218 times in a second, its frequency is 218 hertz. 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 Hertz is the unit for frequency. Hertz is the unit for frequency. Hertz. Suppose it vibrates 560 times. Then we say 560 hertz. Hz. Represented by Hz. That is frequency. So the number of vibrations takes place per second is called frequency. The distance between the two consecutive crests or troughs is called wavelength. So we know that velocity is equal to distance by time. Here distance means distance between the two cursor tough. So that is lambda, by time is t, velocity v. Okay, so v is equal to lambda into 1 by t. 1 by t is nothing but number of vibrations per second, that is called frequency. So v is equal to n lambda, where n is the frequency and lambda is the wavelength, v is the velocity. So velocity of a wave, v is equal to n lambda. Velocity of wave, v is equal to n lambda. It is the formula for velocity of wave. అది లాంగిట్యూడల్ వేవ్ అయినా ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ వేవ్ అయినా ఏదైనా పర్లేదు. ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈజ్ ఏ వేవ్, ద వెలాసిటీ ఆఫ్ వేవ్ ఇస్ ఓకే. సిన్స్ ఇట్ ఈజ్ లైవ్ క్లాస్, ఎవ్రీథింగ్ హ్యాపన్స్ లైక్ దిస్. నెక్స్ట్ థింగ్, సో amplitude. What is an amplitude? The maximum distance covered from its center point is called the amplitude of that particle. Suppose this is the center point. If a particle moves maximum distance this much and minimum distance this much, and again this much like this. This is the maximum distance moved a particle to and fro from the fixed point. That is called amplitude, denoted by A. Like this. This is the fixed point. This is the maximum distance. So amplitude next one is wavelength, frequency, velocity. All these terms related to sound. So wavelength, frequency, amplitude. Next, time period. What is a time period? Denoted by capital T. Velocity V, frequency NRF, wavelength lambda, amplitude A. Okay, observe. So time period. What is the time period? The time taken to vibrate a particle. The time taken to complete one vibration of a particle is called time period of that particle vibration. And suppose a particle is here, it goes there, comes down, and comes to again this way. From this to this and this to this. It is one complete vibration. So time taken to one complete vibration is called the time period. Understand? Right. Next, we can hear only some part of the sound produced. We cannot hear all the frequencies. We can hear only some frequencies. Audible frequency and audible frequency. So 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz is the frequency which can be heard by our eardrum. And only those vibrations are received by our ear. So this is called audible frequency అనుకున్నాం AUD audible frequency. అంటే less than 20 hertz or more than 20,000 hertz cannot be heard by our ear normally. So the frequency which is less than 20 is called infrasonics. Sonic means sounds. అందుకని సోనీ వచ్చింది సౌండ్ నుంచి. నెక్స్ట్ ఇన్ఫ్రాసోనిక్స్, ఆడిబుల్ ఫ్రీక్వెన్సీ అండ్ అల్ట్రాసోనిక్స్. Ultrasonics is the frequency greater than 20,000 hertz, 20 kHz అంటే 20,000 kilohertz. ఇది less than 20 hertz. Generally the infrasonic is received by the animals like snakes, dogs, cats, like that. అంటే dogs can heard from 0 frequency of 0 hertz to 50,000 hertz. Dogs can listen up to 50,000 hertz. Dog.